I am curious. I am not excited, but I'm curious to see how things go for Scott Satterfield at Louisville, because you just cannot undo the apology letter about the South Carolina job and the explanation, which was, we discussed here on the Cover 3 podcast. On one hand, I appreciate that he is trying to, be honest about his desire to be close to family. But on the other, man, it did not seem to play well with the fan base. And, I try to not allow my definition of the fan base to be what I see on sports radio or hear on sports radio or see on Twitter. I try to understand that, especially at a program like Louisville that is so tied into that community, the fan base can include, it can include more level-minded analysis. And Scott Satterfield did a fantastic job in year one. But after going 4-7, falling well short of expectations, an offense that on paper was going to be really, really good, now all of a sudden, you've got a couple of coaching moves. You've got a couple of departures, including Tutu Atwell. Malik Cunningham is back. But again, you're not fired up about saying Malik Cunningham is back like you were a year ago. So I am intrigued about Louisville and all the spring practice ongoings and the media availabilities through the lens of the Scott Satterfield stock price. How about that in the eyes of the Louisville fan base? Am I just like way too caught up in the drama here?
No, I think the first month or so of the season will probably be huge for Louisville. So I think that this spring is very important for them. And I agree with you. They lose Tutu Atwell. They lost Javian Hawkins. Malik Cunningham is back, although they have had a couple of transfer quarterbacks come in, and Shai Wertz and Luke McCaffrey, although Wertz, it sounds like he's going to be Tutu Atwell's replacement in the slot for the most part. Not sure what Luke McCaffrey's role is, if he's just there to provide competition and maybe earn the starting job, or if he's just depth at the position or what. But just looking at what they have going into next year as far as the schedule, because you mentioned the Satterfield stuff, the kind of the fan base kind of not really taking that very well, and understandably so. Like, they open the year with Ole Miss, then they get an Eastern Kentucky bye game, but then they got UCF, at Florida State, at Wake, and Virginia. That's a pretty, there's some landmines there. And if Louisville gets off to a slow start, considering everything that happened with the South Carolina job and the way that was handled, it might be really difficult for Satterfield to find solid footing again going forward with the program. So it's going to be interesting. So I think this is a very important spring for a team that lost a lot on defense, has to replace a lot of its production, is losing a lot of production on offense, and has a lot of question marks. So I don't think there's really one area in particular that I think you need to focus on. I think there's a lot of things that Louisville needs to figure out this spring and over the summer going into the season.
I kind of think that, Chip, you are overreacting a little bit. Just looking at like the quality of play, the stuff we can actually measure, they were extremely lucky in 19, right? Like they should not have had that record. And then last year they were very unlucky as far as how the ball bounced for them. In fact, I mean, if you look at like the Vegas power rating stuff, 2020 Louisville is a decent bit better than 2019 Louisville, but the record didn't show that. The thing is, if you want to be successful as a head coach, you do kind of have to time, like, you gotta catch it right. Okay. And there's a narrative that forms, hey, they're really good year one and they regressed in year two. I don't think they regressed. I think their record regressed. I don't think they actually were that much worse. They played a tougher schedule and they didn't get the bounces that they would normally get. They had some games that didn't go their way necessarily, but also they have a lot of firepower to replace, man, a whole lot. And that scares me a little bit. Like, did they waste a really good potential team last year on a year where they didn't get bounces? They had some tough breaks, and now they got Atwell, Des Fitzpatrick, Javian Hawkins, all those dudes are gone. I worry about their explosiveness on offense some, and yet I do think Satterfield's a pretty good coach.
0-4 games decided by 7 points or less. They did play Notre Dame 12-7. Like, it was one of Notre Dame's ugliest games. It was disgusting.
And that was the game where Notre Dame was like, yeah, Notre Dame was like 0 for 4 in the red zone. Yeah. So that wasn't really a 5-point game.
No. All 5 offensive linemen back. It's good news up front. But how crazy is it, though, that would anybody have guessed after 8-5 year one that 1 year later Scott Satterfield would be in the hot seat? Now, granted, a lot of that's because of the way he handled the coaching interview process. But I do think he's on the hot seat. And I do think I agree with Tom. Like the way this season starts off, because I bet that trust, that bond between him and his players is really like kind of teetering right there. And if you start off with a couple wins, you kind of, it's, oh yeah, that's our guy. He committed to us, you know, we're back. Like, can you get that kind of feel good mojo going? But if you don't, oh man, if you start off rough, then those players are going to, man, this coach was about to leave us, you know, like it's the fickle nature of not only the fans, but the players in that locker room too.